Okay, gentlemen, we're on page 144. I'm going to do something I don't normally do. I'm going to actually use my notebook because I don't want to miss. There are so many ideas here on the ladder. I don't want to miss any of them. So we're on page 144, third line from the top. Vayachalom v'nesula musa v'arza. He has a dream, and the ladder is firmly placed on the ground. V'rosha magia shemaima. The head of the ladder reaches the heavens, and then malachi elokim olim v'yordim bo. The angels go up and down the ladder. So somebody asked yesterday, Ezra, I don't remember, was you, Mayor? Somebody asked about angels don't have free choice. Was that you? Okay. So let's understand what's going on with the ladder, what's going on with the angels, and so on and so forth. So the first idea is, there are a few different ideas we're going to go through now. And they're not necessarily connected, but the symbolism here is, number one, Yaakov is running away. A person who's running for his life is normally consumed with fear. If you're running away, and running away for your life, or if you've ever been in a situation where you're running away, which I was most of the time, every time I walked down the street and I saw a stranger, I ran away. It didn't matter, man, woman, child, old, young. I was always crossing the street to not get, I was always nervous. And all you're thinking about when you're running away is, when you're running away, all you're thinking about is the fear. Yaakov's on the run right now from Esav, right? He's afraid for his life. Now, theoretically, when you go to sleep at night and you're on the run for your life, what should you be thinking about? Have dreams of people chasing you or something along those lines, right? That's generally, you're welcome to join us here at the table if you want. Does everybody have a chumash? You all have, no, you don't have to take off your hoods. You got chumash. Okay, I believe you. Hey, with the hood on. You can close that door if you're cold, by the way. Yeah, close the door, sweet. So a person running away, a person afraid from his life is running away. So that's all you're thinking about. Now, if you go to sleep at night, when you're afraid of something, if you go to sleep at night, so theoretically, you should be dreaming about being chased or, one of those weird dreams, something like that, right? That's what you should have. What does Yaakov dream about? He dreams about spiritual growth. That means that even under the most dire circumstances, even in a situation where he's on the run and he's what's his focus? His focus is on spiritual growth. Therefore, he sees a ladder that obviously symbolizes spiritual growth, number one. Number two, the ladder represents, and you're asking about the angels. So the ladder represents Olim v'yordim bo. One opinion is the angels are Olim v'yordim. That means you go up. We start at a certain level, and like you mentioned yesterday, angels are stationary. Angels don't have free choice. Dogs don't have free choice. Nobody has free choice except for human beings. And that means animals don't have any sort of reward for their choices. Dogs, whatever it is. I told you, a guy once asked me about, guy fell into the water, a guy fell into the water off the coast in the Gulf of Mexico, which apparently is a bad place to be in water because there are sharks there. And this guy was surrounded by sharks, which is also a bad thing. And try to avoid that if you have spare time. So he was surrounded by sharks, and a group of dolphins came, and they surrounded him. Dolphins and sharks go at it. So the dolphins beat up the sharks, and they escorted him to dry land. The Dolphin Hatzalah Committee. They escorted him to dry land. And the guy asked me, a guy here at Ohr Somayach, he asked me, do those dolphins get reward? Do they get reward for what they did? Balei Chesed dolphins. Do the dolphins get rewarded? And the answer is no. First answer is no, because dolphins that fight sharks are not fighting sharks. They have an instinct. Various animals have various instincts. So whatever the instinct is, you don't get schar for that. If a woman serves her husband a meal, does she get schar? Yeah. Of course, she's doing a chesed. If she serves her children, does she get schar? Yes. Of course, she's doing a chesed. Lions have a great attitude. The lions sit there and they sleep. The mother lion goes out hunting and brings back the lion to daddy lion, and he gets the biggest, he gets the biggest pieces there. You ever see these videos of the lions? It's a great system, right? Does she get reward? Oh, I made you a meal, Leo. Right, here you go. Have a. Does she get reward for that? There's no. What's that?
Zebra.
Do zebras do the same thing?
No, I'm saying the lions.
Oh, they eat zebra. Yeah. Here's some zebra. Fresh zebra. There's no reward. She's not doing a chesed. She's got an instinct. That's how God created them. So you only get reward if you use your free choice. Man starts at a certain level, and symbolically, maybe the angels are above us. But if you climb the ladder, they're olim v'yordim. That means the angels may be above you, but if you climb the ladder, then the angels become below us. That means that the whole idea of growth, of activating our free choice, which is why we are on a higher level than angels. And there's a source in Chazal that say that in the future, when the Jewish people are exposed and they're shown Hashem's divine presence, whatever is going on in the inner sanctums up there, however that works, the angels are going to be asking us what's happening over there, because we're going to have the front row seat. We're going to be ahead of the Malachim, because we have free choice. And when you have free choice, that's our job in life, is to activate our free choice. So the ladder represents, that's one idea of Olim V'Yordebo. Another idea of Olim V'Yordebo is, and this is, if you look at the Pasuk, there are two ideas here. If you look in the pure Hebrew, somebody translate for me. It says, the angels of God are going up and down on it. Bo could mean it, and bo could mean him. Now, what is the bo referring to? They're going up and down the ladder. So there are mefarshim that say the bow is not referring to the ladder. The bow is referring to Yaakov Avinu. They go up and down on him, meaning based on the human being, that determines what kind of malachim we create. Right? This is a fundamental in Judaism. There's a fundamental idea in Judaism that when you do a mitzvah, you create. And again, I use the word angels because that's how it's always been translated. But whatever we're thinking of, it isn't. But we create spiritual entities. Call it that. A mitzvah creates a positive spiritual entity. An avera creates a negative spiritual entity. When a person dies after 120 years and he goes to the ultimate judgment, then he's got advocates and he's got prosecutors. Those are all those that have been created by his actions. And every action creates a spiritual entity. The malachim go up or they go down, based on you, the human being. Based on your behavior, you'll have malachim that go up and you're going to have malachim that go down. And so it's what we're doing here that creates these entities. As a matter of fact, Dave, the Yom Kippur service, so the Kohen Gadol, he confesses by putting his hand on the goat. And what do they do with the goat? They take it off to the cliff, and they push the goat off the cliff. Animal rights people notwithstanding, they push the goat off the cliff, and the goat breaks apart. That's one of the rituals on Yom Kippur in the Beis Hamikdash. They take the goat goes off, and they push the goat off the cliff. The goat is shattered. Okay, so what's really going on there? What all of a sudden we become sadists on Yom Kippur of all days of the year to go and pushing goats off of cliffs. And the rest of the year we're careful not to cause any pain to animals whatsoever. And there's something called you can't pull the limbs off living. We're all animal. We're as careful about animals. The halacha is that if you have a dog, you have to feed the dog before you feed yourself. If you own animals, whatever their feeding time is, you have to feed an animal before you even feed yourself, because there's a certain amount of compassion for the animal, which, by the way, is not because of the animal. The compassion for the animal is because of what it does as human beings. Right? If you're compassionate, so then it has an effect on you. All of our behavior has an effect on us. That's why shechita is done with the shechita is the most humane way of killing an animal. But it's not because of the animal, because if we cared about the animals, we wouldn't be killing them at all. So the answer is, if you're shechting, imagine a guy, you're slaughtering animals all day. Now, if you're taking a hammer, you're taking you're causing pain to the animals, what does it do to you? It dulls your sensitivities. But if every time you shecht an animal, you're checking a knife with your fingernail, have you ever seen them check a shechita knife? Yeah. Very carefully. Right? You got to use your fingernail, run your fingernail. There's one opinion in the Gemara, the guy uses tongue. Yeah. I got the heebie-jeebies just learning it. I certainly don't do it. And you run your fingernail across the knife. Now, if every time you run your finger in the slightest chip, ridge, or anything else in the knife, then you can't use that knife to shech the animal. Well, what's that doing to the shochet? When the shochet is checking it, it's having an effect on him before he goes and actually shechs an animal. So when the Kohen Gadol loads up the goat, what's he doing? The answer is that on Yom Kippur is the one day a year. Normally, what happens is, if we do an Avera, so then the Avera, we create a prosecutor. When we do tshuva, they put a piece of tape across the mouth of the spiritual prosecutor. If we do the Avera again, they rip the tape off. If we do tshuva, they put the tape back on. Right? There's a constant, you did the Avera once, twice, you back and forth, do tshuva, on and off, on and off, on and off. On Yom Kippur is the one day a year where we can get rid of it completely. That's why we're cleansed completely on Yom Kippur. What happens? The Kohen Gadol puts his hands on the goat. He confesses the sins of the entire Jewish people. So this goat is loaded up. Right? Now he's loaded up with spiritual contamination. And the only way to get rid of this is to then push the goat off the cliff. He destroys all those angels. Destroys all those spiritual entities, whatever they are. That's the procedure on the course of the year. That's why we push the goat off the cliff. Here, the Torah is telling you that a human being creates. You create. Malachim, olim v'yordebo. The malachim go up and down on you, on our behavior. Based on our behavior, we're creating malachim. That's idea number 2 or 3 or 4, whichever idea we're on. Okay? Number 3, so we mentioned yesterday that it's 8,000 parsos wide, that everybody has an opportunity to everybody has an opportunity to get on the ladder of spiritual growth. And number 4, what is the numerical value of the word sulam? If you insert a vav, because the sulam with a vav, a u, could be written with a vav as well. 136, is that what it is? How much is sulam without the vav? So 136, which is the same numerical value as the word kol. Kol, kol Yaakov, the voice of Yaakov. Now we have 2 voices, right? We have 2 voices. We have the voice of Torah, we have the voice of tefillah. So one opinion among the commentaries is that the sulam represents tefillah. Sulam is tefillah. Malachi Elokim olim v'yordebo, when we daven, when we pray, you daven, so the malachim take our tefillah up there, and down come the various benefits or the various hashpos, I call it the rewards, the whatever it is that we've been asking for. The what's it called? What do you call benefits? I don't want to call it benefit. It sounds like, oh, you benefited by the prosperity. The prosperity comes down, we daven, and then the prosperity comes down. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants us to daven and ask for things. That's part of tefillah. We spoke about tefillah quite a bit in the past. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants us to daven. He wants us to ask. Sometimes things are withheld simply for the purpose of getting us to ask for it. Just ask. I'll give it to you if you ask. Remember I showed it to you at the beginning of Parshas? Remember we talked about the rain? That Hashem created the plants, but they didn't grow because there was no rain. Why was there no rain? Because there was no man to die. Man wasn't yet created to ask for it. And we need to ask for it. You need him to ask for it in order to give the rain? The answer is yes. The answer is yes. That's what Kosh Baruch Hu wants. He wants that the contact that we make with him in order to ask for it. Therefore, the sulam represents our tefillos go up and then our tefillos come down. Okay, here's a very important idea that Rabbi Leff also mentioned. You have a ladder, by the way. What does the ladder indicate? If it's a ladder of growth, first of all, the feet of the ladder are firmly planted on the ground. That's the word, mula mutzav arza. The feet of the ladder are probably firmly planted on the ground. Maybe we get some air in here, gentlemen. It's getting a little warm. Maybe we could open one of the doors or the windows. Thanks there. The ladder is placed firmly on the ground. This is extremely important, gentlemen. That means sometimes people view religious Jews as being out of touch. Right? We're so focused on spiritual pursuits that we're clueless about what's going on in the rest of the world. And we ourselves are a bunch of flower children who are living in a world of make-believe. And that's how people view us. That's why my middle name is Rainbow. Right? You didn't know that. Just kidding. Why don't you get with the program? You're a bunch of religious guys, and all you do is you bark Tehillim all day. which is how we have been described by the secular in the country. We bark to Tehillim. First of all, I don't bark, except at my kids, and number one. And number two, when I daven, I don't bark. I try to say the words and think about what I'm saying. But we are very much in touch with reality, and our feet are firmly placed on the ground. We work for a living. Those who work. Woody Allen once said, "Those who can't work teach." Right? As Woody Allen said, "Those who can't work teach, and those who can't teach phys ed." Right? Yeah. Physical education. Gym. Those who can't work teach, and those who can't teach. I was a phys ed major in college, so I've got all Woody Allen's qualifications. So we work, we pay taxes, and we raise families, and we and we have all the various. And there are Jewish professionals, there are Jewish lawyers and Jewish dentists, and there are Jewish truck drivers. We're very much in touch with it. What are we doing with the spirituality? And that's why there's what, and you know me well enough to know, my pet peeve is fake spirituality, right? Sometimes people close their eyes during L'chadodi, and you feel spiritual. We all feel spiritual. Everybody likes singing. Let's see you feel spiritual on Tisha B'Av. Let's see how spiritual you feel on Tisha B'Av when you're fasting and you're sitting on a low chair. That's also spirituality. We're very much in touch with reality, and we don't get keep your feet firmly planted on the ground. Don't annoy people with your Yiddishkeit, and don't do mitzvahs at other people's expense, and don't daven too loud and bother the guy next to you in shul, and don't shuckle too much and bother everybody in shul. Right? And don't, in general, just stay in touch with reality. We have a responsibility. A person who comes along and says, I'm not going to work because I'm a man of faith. Right? I have faith in God. I have deep belief in God. God will support me, therefore I don't have to work. You're not a man of faith. You're a man of unemployment. Right? And there's a very big difference. You're not a man. You're not a deep believer. You're a deep lazy person. Right? I get to work. Right? Nobody ever said that because you put on tefillin and you put on a black hat means that you are now absolved of all your human responsibilities. To the contrary, that's all part of Yiddishkeit. Yiddishkeit is vertical and Yiddishkeit is horizontal. Yiddishkeit is facing up that way, and Yiddishkeit is on this level as well. And that's what the ladder's teaching you. Keep your feet firmly planted on the ground. And when you see a person who looks off balance in his Judaism, that means he is. Right? If he looks off balance, then he's off balance. And I got news for you. People think that because people become religious, I've heard this at Ohr Somayach over the years many times, because they become religious, they become nutty. Right? My experience has been that the people who come in here balanced stay balanced, and the people who come in here nutty stay nutty. Right? They're just nutty with tefillin on. That's all. It's just it's like a chocolate bar with nuts or without nuts. Plain or milk chocolate or with nuts. Right? So either you're a nut, either you're socially awkward before you become religious, you're socially awkward after you're religious. Either way, the religion didn't make you socially awkward. The Torah didn't hurt anybody. Torah's never hurt anybody. If you're off balance, you're off balance. All the people who have fights with their families when they become religious, chances are things weren't that great beforehand either. It's not like, because he put on tefillin, now we hate him. Right? He's wearing tzitzis. There is a certain amount of sensitivity we have to have towards parents who did not have this background. And parents certainly don't want the son comes home, what are the neighbors going to say? There is a concern, and it's a real concern. And therefore, sometimes you have to keep it low-key. As a matter of fact, there's even a question, a guy who goes home, and his parents don't want him to wear a black hat, or they don't want him to wear the shtreimel. One week he was completely secular, and the next week he's already a chassid with a shtreimel and payas. So, and the parents are a little wary about what people are going to say. So you have to know that there's no mitzvah. It's not a d'oraisa to wear a shtreimel, and it's not even a d'rabbanan. And sometimes honoring your parents is. That's a d'oraisa, and sometimes you have to take your parents' concern into consideration. Anything that's not the letter, if it's the letter of the law, there's nothing you can do. Letter of the law, you have to maintain the letter of the law. But if it's not the letter of the law, so sometimes you have to compromise on what you want for what your parents want. And who said that you have to go and flaunt it and put in everybody's face? It doesn't say that anywhere. And therefore, the Torah says, keep your feet firmly planted on the ground. Right? Sometimes I know a big rabbi who, when he saw guys getting a little over passionate, he says, their temperature is a little high right now. Turn down the temperature. Turn down the temperature. We're not looking at it. Don't go that sort of thing. So keep your feet firmly planted on the ground. Number 4, 5, 6, whatever number we are on. Rabbi Leff said that the ladder, listen carefully because this is fundamental. The angels are going up and the angels are going down. what that symbolizes is, what are my goals of growth? That's what the angel is going up. What are my goals? And a person has to have a goal. In life, you have to have a goal. You have to have a direction, and you have to have a goal. What am I trying to achieve? Where are we going with all this? To say, well, I'm here to serve God. That's great. You have a goal. Would you like to finish Shas? Would you like to devote your life to Chesed? Do you want to be involved with Tzedakah? You know, where are your goals over here? You have to have goals, concrete goals. And that's what the aliyos are. The angels going up represent. That's why it's not free choice. We're not talking about the angels themselves. The angels are only here as a symbolism for man. What are my goals in Yiddishkeit? What would I like to achieve? How much Torah would I like to learn? Would I like to work for the community? Do I want to be a rabbi? Do I want to be a counselor to help people who are struggling in the community? Do I want to be a doctor to help people who have health issues within Yiddishkeit? What are my goals? On the other hand, where are my flaws? Where do I need to fix? That's Yerid Malchim Yordimbo. That I see what I'm missing in my avodas Hashem. Where do I have a flaw? I have a flaw that I'm a little bit selfish, and maybe I'm a little bit haughty, and maybe I'm a little bit not focused enough on Torah study as much as I should be. That helps us also. That helps us too. Focusing on our flaws, sometimes that just shows me where I need to grow. I know what the positive growth is, but I also know where there are things that need to be fixed up. And each person, none of us are a 10 just yet. And therefore, everybody has to go. We're not like that actress. They are interviewing this mindless actress on, one of these talk shows. They're talking there about her career. I was, one of those. And then at the end, they always ask her, okay, now tell us something bad. Tell us, what's your worst character trait? I'm too kind. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Another one of the 36 tzaddikim of the generation, right? Then you find out she's a drug addict and she commits suicide. But at the end, they had one way to call. They had one actress. They once asked her. They interviewed her, and then there had been some sort of disaster in Indonesia or something like that. Like an earthquake or something. A lot of people got. So at the end, the last question was why she's first they asked her about her career and about, exactly what immoral things she's done. And then they ask her at the end, and what do you say about that disaster in Indonesia? She goes, oh, well, death is terrible because, when you die, a big part of your life is gone. That's what she said. And, profound. She's a philosopher, a philosophy major. So what Rav Lev said is that the idea is that a person has to know that we have to focus, we have to see what needs to be fixed up. Where do I need to fix things up? And by the way, that's one of the benefits of marriage. Because in marriage, your wife will point out your flaws. And there are two ways to respond. You can respond like a baby, which most of us are. Males are babies. We're immature. And then you start getting defensive, and you start yelling and raising your voice, which means you're wrong. Right? Every time, the louder you yell, the more, it's like just saying, wearing a sign that says, I am wrong. Right? Or you could listen to her. There are only two who know what your true spiritual level is. One is Hashem, and the other one is your wife. They're the only ones who know. Everybody else can be deceived. Everybody else, what a tzaddik, until he goes home. Till he goes home, and he's a monster in the house. And there are plenty of people, well, everybody outside, that's why you have in the secular world as well. The guy, the boss at the office, everybody loves the boss at the office. Everybody's crazy over the boss, especially his secretary. Everybody's crazy over the boss, right? Till he goes home. Right? His wife's not so crazy over him, and his kids aren't so crazy over him, because then the real him comes out. We all great putting on a show out public. Do you know that the Gemara says probably the most difficult concept that I've ever across in the Gemara? There's davening, there's learning, there's prophecy. That's child's play. That's nothing. The most difficult statement I've ever seen in the Gemara, they asked Rav Ada bar Ava, one of the sages, they said to him, to what do you ascribe your long life? So he said there are a few things. He never was seen without learning Torah, without wearing tefillin. Yeah, not impressed. You know what he said? I never got upset in my home. Think about that, Mayor, right? I never got impatient or got upset in my home. How do you like that? Really? I didn't for the last hour. Because I've been out of the house, right? But that's the only reason, right? Yeah. In your home with kids, you know what it's like raising kids? You know what it's like raising a wife? Or having a wife raise you? Yeah. Never got upset in your home? Never got impatient? You can't, Daddy, my glasses broke. What happened? Well, I was trying to see how far they could bend, and they can't bend as far as I thought. My daughter comes to me yesterday. She needs money. Daddy, could I have money? I just gave you money. Why do you need money? And it's like I don't mind giving money, but no end to it. There's no end to it. He never got upset at home. Never lost patience. He was probably out of the house a lot. Right? Never got paid, never got upset in the middle of the night when you and your wife haven't had a decent night's sleep for 3 days because the baby's screaming, and you still got to get up in the middle of the night, and you don't get upset. You know how vulnerable you are after 3. Oh, guys, you just wait. You think, he's talking, he's exaggerating. Oh yeah. Let's see it. Wait, I'd love to see it. Call me up at 2 a.m, guys. Please, I'll give you my number. Call me when you have a baby and you're up at 2 a.m. for the 3rd day in a row and you're falling off your feet. And then your wife, what are you getting so sensitive for? Call me up then and look at this mug. I'll be smiling at you. Hi, enjoy the tears, boys. Yeah, because that's the reality. That's life. That's the truth. So Torah comes along. Torah says, you got flaws. She'll tell you what your flaws are. She knows better than anybody else what your flaws are. And from the flaws we grow. That's what the ladder is. The ladder shows us, Leah, can you open the door over there? The ladder shows us where we need to improve. Okay, enough said on that. Let's go on. The Yaakov Avinu leaves. Okay, back on page 144. All right, I want to go on. That's a drop in the bucket of what the commentaries say about the ladder. So Yaakov Avinu goes on, and he travels on, and he's on his way to Haran, because that was the whole goal. The whole goal was to go in and get to Uncle Lavan. Now, if you look at on page 146, so Yaakov makes a pledge. He makes a pledge to Hashem. He turns a stone into an altar. And then on at bottom of 146 is an interesting halachic concept. It says, V'ha'even, 4 lines from the bottom. V'ha'even azos asher samti matseva, this stone which I made an altar, yeh beis Elokim. V'chol asher titen li aser a'asrenu lach. Whatever you give me, I will tithe. Now, based on this, we know that there's a concept of tithing money. When a person makes money, we give it away. You give away 10%. And because it says aser a'asrenu lach, we learn out from here that you could give a 10th twice, which means how much? 20. You give 20%. The maximum you could give of your money is 20%, which means they made a Gemara says be'usha hiskina. There was a place, the Sanhedrin was in a place in a town called Usha, and they instituted ha'me'aser al yaser yoser michomesh. If you give away ha'mevazbeis al yevazbeis yoser michomesh. One who spends money on tzedakah, you can't give more than 20%, because we don't need you to become poor. So you were given money by God. Use your money. You could tithe your money. And when you tithe the money, it's tithing profits. In other words, you could deduct costs. You deduct costs, and you deduct taxes, you deduct their ways, all sorts of halacha how you calculate it. But at the end of the day, when you give based on what you have to tithe, so then you're a maximum of 20%. Now, that is if you're giving it away for a mitzvah. Let's say you're giving it away because you want to get an atonement. Or let's say there's a family member who's not well and you want the merit of tzedakah. So there the Chafetz Chaim says you could give more. What's the logic? The logic is if you had a family member who's not well and you had to pay a specialist, you have to pay a doctor. How much would you pay? Pay whatever it costs. Then there's certainly no limit. So if you're giving the tzedakah, that in the merit of the tzedakah, your family member or somebody, a friend, whoever it is, should have a refuah shlema, should be cured. So then there's no logical reason why you're spending it like you'd be spending it on a doctor. But if you do it for the mitzvah purpose, then you're limited to 20%. The Chafetz Chaim says then you go back. The other exception is if you are what's called, what we would call mega rich, right? What the Gemara calls you're an Ashir Muflag. Now, how much is it? Well, that indicates that I'm not. Right? If you have to ask how much it is, then you're not. Right? Am I considered mega rich? If you're asking, you're not. If you are, it's one of those things in life that when you experience it, you'll know it. Right? It should happen to me soon. Say amen. Thank you. If I become mega rich, I'll know that I'm mega rich. Right? So I don't know exactly how much it is, but it's the sort of shaila I'd love to ask. I would love to go to a Rav instead of asking about my milchik spoon that fell into my fleishik pot, or ask him if I forgot Yalav Yavo, and I got to say, I would love to go and say, am I considered rich enough that I could give more than 20%? Boy, would I love to ask that shaila. Oh boy. Yeah. All right. So Yaakov goes on. Now watch something very strange happens. He goes, Vayeitzei Yaakov raglav v'elech artza b'neikem. 2 lines from the bottom. And he goes out to the field, and he sees there are these 3 shepherds. Oh, see, it's all the same. I guess they killed a couple of sheep, and now they have to make a shavua. They learned some Baba Mitzvah. So he goes, and he sees that there are 3 herds of sheep, and they're just draying around because there's a big stone on the well. There's a huge stone, and they need to water the sheep. So the Torah says, second line, V'nesfu shama kol ha'adorim, all of the herds would gather. V'gololu es ha'even me'al pia be'er, they would roll the stone off the well. V'hishku es ha'tzon v'yeshivu es ha'even al pia be'er, then come and put the stone back. What does that tell you, the fact that there's a massive stone that needs all the shepherds to go in and remove it? What does that tell you?
Security.
Security from who? From each other. Right? They don't trust each other. They obviously don't trust each other. People are going to be stealing the water. And this is interesting because this is the city of Lavan. So apparently the Lavonian influence has spread to everybody. They're all a bunch of no-goodniks, right? None of them could trust each other. So Yaakov sees them, and he says, what's the deal over here? Hey, there's plenty of time in the day. You're shepherds. Why did you bring the sheep in? You should be out grazing. Now here's Yaakov Avinu. The first thing he says to them is, "Hey, you're being dishonest. You're being paid to do a day's work over here, and you're not doing it. You're loafing on the job. Stranger comes to town, sees a bunch of guys, say, "Hey, what's going on, guys? Get back to work. What are you doing?" Which is Yaakov's principle. Remember we talked about Yaakov's trait is a trait of MS. He says, "Hey, what's going on over here? You guys aren't doing what you're supposed to be doing." So they said to him, "Vayomru, Pasuk Ches." 9 lines from the top. Vayomer lo nuchal ad asher yasu kol ha'adorim. We can't until all the herds gather. Now pay attention very carefully, gentlemen. V'gololu es even me'al pi haber v'yishkunu atzon. Odenu medaber imam. They're still talking to them. V'rochel ba'im atzon asher la'avia ki roahi. Rachel comes walking along with the sheep, which is strange. She's a shepherdess. And it just shows you that she's an industrious young lady who doesn't sit around just because her father's rich, doesn't sit around drinking iced coffee. And she's industrious, and this is one of her qualifications to become the mother of future Klal Yisrael. Vayhi kasher ra Yaakov es Rachel bas Lavan achima, when Yaakov sees Rachel, ves tzon Lavan achima, he sees the sheep, vayigash Yaakov vayogel es even me'al pi haber, he rolls off the stone alone, vayashges tzon Lavan achi imo, and he waters the stone. Now take a look at Rashi over here. Right column of Rashi, second line from the bottom. Vayigash Yaakov, he approaches the stone and he knocks the stone off. Says Rashi, everybody see it, right column, second line from the bottom. Ki adam shemavir es hapekak me'al pi tzlochis. It's like a guy popping a cork off a bottle, right? Pops the stone off. That's how hard. That's a stone that took the shepherds, who are big, strong guys, and they couldn't roll the stone off till they all gather. Yaakov comes over and pops off the stone. Lehodiach hashekocho go, lets you know he's very strong. Okay, why do we need to know how strong he is? So let's put this in the proper perspective. Who's he running away from? He's running away from Esav. I mean, Yaakov and Esav are twins. Esav may be tough. Yaakov seems like he's pretty strong. Why are you running? Turn around and fight him.
Oh, because maybe she was going to marry.
So there is an approach that he shows her that he's capable, and so on, and so there is such an approach. There's also approach that popping off the stone in front of Rachel means that he shows that through his tefillah he's going to help that she shouldn't be barren. Because a woman is the source of life. The well is the source of water, which is life. So there's a symbolism there of the removing the barrenness from Rachel, which we'll see later on. But the commentaries say, what does it mean his strength is great? What do any of you do martial arts? Any of you ever learn to study martial arts? What do they teach you in martial arts? Even if you're an expert in martial arts, what are you supposed to do when there's a confrontation? Walk away. Avoid the confrontation. All right, you'll never make it on TV. Right, because TV you're supposed to beat people up. That's otherwise. Kung Fu. Do you remember the TV show Kung Fu? David Carradine. So in every episode, obviously there's a fight. But he's the great, calm, and he tries to calm everybody down until they pick on him and he beats up 4 people at once. That sort of thing. Now, if he ended with him walking away, the TV would, the ratings were high on that show. Like if he always walked away, so the ratings wouldn't have been so good. Next thing you know, somebody's is laid out on the ground. Yaakov Avinu, what's true strength? True strength is to walk away from the confrontation. That's true strength. True strength isn't to poke the guy. True strength is to walk away from the confrontation. The Gemara says on the pasuk, Tola Eretz al Belima. God suspends the world in a nothingness. You ever wonder, the earth is kind of there. What's keeping us up? The earth is just kind of in space and, if you've studied anything about, physics and all these things, gravity and this and that, the other. In the end of the day, we could be falling. So the Gemara says, based on that pasuk, in the merit of somebody who restrains himself when there's a potential quarrel, somebody restrains, there's a potential quarrel, somebody called you a name, and you didn't respond, in your merit, the entire world exists. How do you like that? Which tells you something. It tells you? It tells you it's not so easy to restrain yourself. And if you're willing to not answer, don't respond. Just don't say anything. Just don't say anything. And sometimes in life it's the hardest thing. By the way, when it's hardest, guys? Guess what? Where's it the hardest? What? At home. At home is the hardest. In the office, I'll show everybody what a man of self-control I am. At home, out comes the club. Right? Why is that? Why is that? Probably because, I'm not sure it's because we want to be in control. We certainly want people to see us as the perfect, successful human being. And probably because the things that irritate us, we know that we really shouldn't be, that we're wrong. The more wrong you are, the harder it is to restrain yourself.
Why especially at home?
Especially at home, I'm not sure. Probably because our guard is down. A person's on the best behavior when you're in public. We're not trying to impress anybody. That's the truth. That's the real reason. Why is it that you're willing to do an act of kindness if you're on the street and somebody needs help? All of a sudden, you see a little old lady carrying packages with a heavy pack, so you carry packages for her. And as you're carrying them, you're just thinking to yourself, then you come to the yeshiva after carrying packages for a little old lady, you're sitting in this room thinking, does anybody in this room realize whose presence you're in right now? That there is a potential Chafetz Chaim sitting on the bench next to you over here. Does anybody? That's when people outside. When your wife asks you to do the dishes, we're great at that. We bray like horses. Why? What happened? What's it? The answer is that nobody's impressed there. Outside, there's always a question of prestige. Wow, the guy in shuls, everybody sees me putting away the Siddurim in shul. People will say nice things about me at my funeral. Because they'll say, oh yeah, he was the guy who put away Siddurim. Wow, he was so kind. He always put money in the pushka, a nickel every day, which adds up to not very much in the course of the year. But at least they saw me doing it. Right? At home, there's nobody to impress. That's why at home, you also dress differently at home. Right on the street, I put up a suit, a tie, you go to right. At home, you walk around like Tarzan. Right? Because there's nobody to impress you. You walk around with a T-shirt with meatball stains on it. At home you're not worried about anybody. At home you're not trying to impress. And now you have the nerve to impose on me to get up. I'm in the middle of doing something important. I'm sitting in front of a TV with a can of peanuts. Right? You want me to give you pay attention to you? There's a football game on, lady. What? Say, I'm not sure why. Certainly because our guard is up outside the home. At home, that's who we really are. That's why it's an indication. So Yaakov Avinu, the hardest place is to walk away from the fight at home. Walk away, don't bicker. And if you manage to not do that, and sometimes you feel that it's unjust. That's also a reason. Because why is she asking me to do something? I've been working all day, and I finally sat down. Why is she asking me to do dishes or fold laundry or pay attention to the kids? Right? Like, 1 second, you're crossing the line over here. That's not my job. It's your job, that sort of thing. So if you don't, his strength, great. So here's a Yaakov, you could turn around and fought with Esav. And we'll see later on that he does take him on when Esav comes with 400 men. So he had that ability. Walk away, that's strength. But there's a much deeper idea. When you think of a miracle, what's the first thing you think of? If I say miracle, what do you think of? Miraculousness. Yeah, after you think what's an example of a miracle? An example of a miracle that you first thing you think of?
Red Sea.
The splitting of the sea. The splitting of the sea. So the Gemara says Hanukkah, the splitting of the sea. The Gemara says that it is as hard for God to pair up people as it is to split the Yam Suf. What people forget, it says also as hard to make Parnasa as is splitting the Yam Suf. Hi, how was your day? Great, I split the sea again today. Give me your husband coming home. I split the sea again today. Right? Well, that's good because Junior broke his glasses again. He split his glasses. You split the sea. That's what we think of as a miracle. But the Ramban says this is a miracle also. To be able to move your finger is a miracle too. Why? So why don't we see it that way? I mean, why say? Because there's some sort of brain impulse, some sort of nerve impulse. That's why I'm able to do like this, because that we're used to. So we take it for granted. So the Gemara says that remember Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa? Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa, his daughter looked upset. So he said to her, what are you upset about? She said, well, I was supposed to set up the Shabbos candles, and I put in vinegar instead of oil into the candles. So what was his reaction? He said, the one that told the oil to burn, he'll tell the vinegar to burn. God will tell the vinegar to burn. So they lit the vinegar. And it burned. And it burned all Shabbos. And it was still burning at Havdalah time, and they lit the Havdalah candle off of it. So what's really going on here? The answer is that if you ask any of us, why does oil burn? So you're going to use words like combustibility and other things that they used in high school in biology class, right? In chemistry class. Why does oil burn? It burns because God said oil should burn. God could have just as easily made what he could have made marshmallow fluff burn too, right? No, instead he uses oil. So Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa was saying to her, it has nothing to do with the substance. If your belief is at that level, so it makes no difference. It makes absolutely no difference. So if you really believe vinegar will burn, by the way, what that means is at no time on Shabbos did anybody walk past and go, wow, the vinegar is really burning, because that means you don't really believe it. Because everybody just like, vinegar is burning, like just like that. Yaakov Avinu, when it says kocho gadol, his strength, what strength are we talking? Not talking about physical strength. We're talking about his strength of faith. In Yaakov's mind, it makes no difference. To pop a cork off a bottle is also a miracle, isn't it? That you could do that with your finger. In Yaakov's mind, popping off a stone off of a well was no different than popping up a cork. Because in both cases, he understands whatever strength I have is coming from God anyway. It's the exact same God, the exact same strength. Therefore, he's able to pop it off just like a cork. That's what it means, kocho gadol. All right, keep your feet on the ground, guys.